Welcome to SAP Growth Podcast. I'm Ritoma, your host for today, and we are honored to feature Mr. Pramod from Bangalore, a successful entrepreneur with 8 years in SAP service who grew SAP Information Technologies to 80 million revenue in his 20 years as in career as a supply chain solution architect. He excels in demand management, procure to pay, and process automation, emphasizing the enhanced user experience. Mr. Pramod is a dynamic business leader, brings a unique blend of strategic planning, partner management, and monitoring to drive innovation in the IT industry. So let's welcome him for our podcast show, SAP Growth Podcast. Hello, Mr. Pramod. How are you?
Hi, Tima. Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for coming here, sir. We are very excited to have you in our show, and as we have discussed for a long time now. So, how are you feeling?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on the SAP Growth Podcast. I mean, it's a real pleasure for me to share my experiences for aspiring WM consultants or in general anybody who wants to pursue their career in SAP.
Right, sir. Right. So, how has your Christmas been like, and how is your days looking like?
It's good. It's exciting holiday season, so enjoying time with family.
Right. That's great. So, sir, I just explained a bit about yourself in the introduction. So, will get to know more about you through the conversation. So, let's start.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So, sir, my first question goes like, can you explain the role of SAP WM in optimizing warehouse operation?
Sure. Bit of a background before that. So, SAP Warehouse Management is part of logistic execution system in SAP, where SAP
Okay.
has got all the execution part, be it delivery and all those things, is part of logistic execution system, and it is very tightly integrated with all the modules in SAP because material movements happens from various modules.
Right.
Eventually, there is a central place of warehouse management where all the transactions can be done in terms of tracking, tracing, and optimizing warehouse in terms of capacity check or however one would like to use the warehouse. So now it is an extension of the inventory. Technically, because earlier it was an extension of inventory management. Now it is
Right.
part of logistic execution management, plays a very big role in terms of tracking material, tracing material, and basic optimizing the whole warehouse management, picking and tracing.
Okay. So, sir, what are the key features and functionalities of SAP WM set in apart from traditional warehouse management system? If you could
Sure.
tell us.
So now again, if we just take a step back from when we get into SAP, all the material movements happens in inventory management. I mean, it can be manual transactions or flowing through some other modules. Now,
Right.
I mean, when you get into SAP, we need to understand the hierarchy of the logistics in terms of there will be a plant, there will be a storage location, and there will be a next level is the warehouse. When we
Okay.
say a plant is a ideally is a or typically it is a place where manufacturing activity happens or some kind of stock movement happens. We call it as a plant at a very high level. Under a plant, we have a storage location. See, storage location is a place where you store all your materials, be it raw materials, finished goods, or semi-finished goods, or whatever material types you use, you store it there. Now, if you're using only storage location, all the materials are in a single place. But somebody who wants to come back and as somebody comes and wants to find out where exactly a particular material A is, you will not be able to find that. Which means that storage location is just a place, open place where all the materials are done. Might be
Right.
organized, might not be organized, but still it's very difficult to trace where exactly a particular material is. Now, this is where warehouse management comes into play, wherein SAP bifurcates the storage location and warehouse management, wherein to a storage location, you attach a warehouse where all the bin structures can be defined. which means that transaction always happens in inventory management. Immediately, information flows to warehouse management, where you would have built your bin structure, which whatever way your physical structure is designed, we build the same structure in warehouse, wherein system can suggest which bin a particular material should go and sit, or from where should it be picked. So that is one of the most important things the warehouse management is going to give in terms of tracking. What does
Right.
that do? It basically helps the pickers to go to that particular bin when something has to be picked, or exactly go to that bin when something has to be placed. So what we call as a round trips, the round trips will be decreased. Instead of a particular picker or a placement warehouse personnel trying to go find out if this particular system is not around, that person has to really go around the warehouse, especially imagine a very big warehouse, to find out where the empty bin is. Whereas with this warehouse management, straight away tells you that, okay, go and place it in that particular bin. And same with the picking. When you can use a lot of strategies like FIFO and all those kind of strategies, so that system based on the first in, first out or last in, first out system can
Okay.
automatically go and suggest the missing. So that's the key thing. The second thing is the most important thing, the integrated function. At any point of time, live inventory data is available in SAP in terms of which bin what material is available.
So, sir, as per your experience, can you share some real life scenarios or examples uh, um, for your warehouse management inventory?
Sure. See, two, three things before I go there. I mean, let's understand quickly what are the things which happen in warehouse. So, as I said, first the transactions happen in inventory management. Moment a transaction happens in inventory management, which means that a goods receipt or a goods issue, there are three basically transactions which happen in SAP in terms of material movement at a high level. One is a goods receipt, another is a goods issue, third one is a transfer posting or stock transfers. So goods receipt can be from purchase orders, production orders, where you are receiving a good from for various other business processes. It can be external from a purchase order or internal from a production order. Then you have a goods issue. So goods issue can be internal to a production order, issuing components for production, or you are issuing finished goods to the customers also. Transfer postings, moving material or stock transfers, what SAP calls, moving material from one plant to another plant or another plant, one storage location to another storage. At this, these are the three high-level transactions which happen in SAP. So once a goods movement happens in inventory management, immediately a signal goes to warehouse saying that there is some material which is sitting in the storage location where a user has to go and place it in a bin or pick up from a bin. So what SAP does is SAP creates something called as a transfer requirement, and then we basically do something called as a transfer order, where system actually tries to find a empty bin. Right? This is a high
Okay.
level. This is how the process works. Now, the
Right.
real time, this is where the challenge comes, wherein moment a goods receipt happens or a goods issue happens, the warehouse picker should be in a position to immediately go to that particular bin. And the
Okay.
most common technique, which my most common experience is something called as where during the placement we do something called as a capacity check. Say, for
Capacity.
example, yeah. So recently I was involved in a FMCG industry
Right.
where small components were involved, like where each components were put on tray. And each bin can hold some we used to call small trays and big trays. A small tray could hold around 24 components. A big tray could hold around 56 components, something like that. So we had to basically set up the system in a way that if 12, if more than 24 trays, because each tray has 10 components, so we had to basically understand the capacity of the tray and also how many trays can go into each bin. So capacity of a tray as well as capacity of a bin. Based on that, where we set up, depending on how much has to be goods, we set up a system where based on the capacity check, system would propose that a set of goods receipt has to go to 5 different bins. a set of templates. For example, if first step what we used to do was when a goods receipt of a quantity of say 100 was done, first we used to determine how many trays would be required to place this 100. Now, how many of these trays can go into each bin? So all those master data setup all was done, and this business rules were done where life became so easy for them. Otherwise, they had to go round and round to find out empty bin, especially one goods receipt. If was going to multiple bins, that was a huge challenge for them. So what we did was we straight away, when the goods receipt was done, we straight away warehouse, when the whole thing was transferred to warehouse, we were in a position to propose, okay, place this in these 5 bins or these 6 bins. Not necessarily next to each other, but still wherever the empty bin was there, we were able to set up the system.
Right.
So that reduced a lot of their turnaround time, and a lot of optimization happened. And the whole, see, it's an effect wherein if the warehouse is managed properly, your production process also gets managed properly. Because
Exactly.
if the components don't get issued to the production order, obviously there is a delay in the production. So it's a chain. You monitor, manage this properly. The whole chain there, logistics chain, be it to customer issue or whatever, everything gets streamlined. Similarly, they wanted this FIFO, first in, first out. So standard SAP
Absolutely.
gives an option of for the issue part, where we used to give do a FIFO. We set up the FIFO so that they didn't have to worry about that they're aging in terms of aging, whether the old one is there, whether we are issuing the new one or we issuing the old one. All those things were taken care. That was a huge, huge improvement which happened.
So it is actually such a like a chain, like it's like a systematic chain where if
That-
one thing loses its track, then the other one faces the problem. So
it-
yeah, so
it-
supply
because
chain
especially
management is
the material movement is the key in the production activity, the whole supply chain. If that gets streamlined, a lot of other processes also get streamlined.
right, right. Like supply chain management, it's like we as a outsider think that okay, the product is being created and it's put into a place where it is picked up and a lot of things. We know so little about it, but now when you're seeing that what are the procedures and how intense are the procedures are and how laborious this work is, but still so interesting, I must say. So let's go move to the next question, sir.
Sure.
What challenges are commonly faced during implementation of SAP WM and how can they be overcome?
Right. See, when we talk about warehouse management, unlike other modules, in other modules, let's say you're talking about procurement module or a production module. So it is a process which either we can change it in SAP a bit to where the business can adopt, or we can change SAP to adopt to business. But whereas in warehouse management is already set up. The bins are set up, the structure is set up. So we need to exactly map. We cannot go and tell the customer, you change your warehouse SAP works this way. Right? The
Right,
warehouse is already fixed, it's running.
right,
Right? Unlike other
right,
modules, we cannot go in and change. So we need to map the existing bin structure to SAP. So the initial design, because by adopting the warehouse management, we should be increasing their workload. Our idea should be to optimize and help them run the business better, right? So the
correct,
initial design part is very, very how understanding the existing structure, what are the different transactions which are being done, what are the different kinds of material flows which happen. When I say material flow, goods received, goods issued, transfer posting, within that there will be multiple variants of goods issues, multiple variants. So what are the first understand what are the different understand the structure, how they are structured, and there is a reason why they would have structured that. So understand that reasoning, why it is being structured. Second thing
correct,
is understand the challenges what they are facing. So
right,
then we need to first and the foremost challenge we'll have is to understand that and exactly replicate the warehouse management structure within SAP. That's the first thing, because that design is, even if it gets delayed for a week or 10 days, it is still fine. Because once you set up, then it becomes very difficult to undo the changes in warehouse management. So that's the most challenging part. Ensure that talk to all the stakeholders, including, because here, see, there are two ways. One is talk to the executives, talk to the managers. They will have a different perspective. But the people who are actually doing it down there, they are the people who are going to give the real feedback as to challenges they are facing. Right?
Correct.
So it's important to understand the warehouse level pickers and placement personnel to understand what the challenges are and then map it to SAP. That's the key. That's the biggest challenge. And second thing would be so that good amount of time has to be spent on that. And what SAP does is, so typically each warehouse management is different. So what SAP does is it gives a big framework of as a platform and gives a lot of enhancements wherein you can tune it to customers' requirements. So wherever
Right.
standard SAP is not supporting, because especially with warehouse, you cannot say that SAP is not supporting this. You need to change because that's already a running process, a material movement process. So there's a change management also involved because there are 2 or 3 additional transactions which has to be done with the warehouse. But eventually it can be automated. But generally, my recommendation to most of the customers are when you set up, do it manually for 3 to 6 months, then understand what the challenges are. Because if you automate it from the day one,
Beginning only,
then
then it will be a
you
big
will
problem.
never know what the challenges are. So, and the
Correct.
system will not be appreciated also. So that's the recommendation I generally give. And the
And a
third,
lot of people, have the learning and the knowledge of manual first than
correct,
the automation.
correct,
The manual is first taught in any department, and then the automated automation part. But it automation part may takes a little more time, but it is easier also to learn once you know the manual part better. So,
exactly.
right. Okay.
That's exactly the point. So, just to conclude on that, the last challenge is going to be the change management, as always. Any process, so there is
Okay.
always a resistance for change. As they say, change is the only constant in life. So,
Right.
getting that whole change management is a big challenge because there are a couple of additional transactions which the people have got used to it for 20, 30 years and
Yeah.
making them understand. See, once they understand, see, how do we do that? We cannot get into the change management straight away unless we are helping them or letting them know that we are reducing their workload or helping them to do their work better. Only then the change management will be possible. So, which means that it goes back, ensure that all the design part, everything is taken care, ensure that their challenges, at least from 50 to 60% of the challenges initially are addressed. Only then the change management becomes easy. So right from the beginning, it's basically because warehouse is a bit of a different ball game than the regular because the rest all is software based. Creating a purchase order, everything is software. You basically do it in the physical, whereas this is physical. So that's where the difference is. The last thing is going to be the change management is going to be one of the other challenge. So to overcome that, ensure that your designs from the beginning is correct, and at least give them some whatever their initial pain points are, give them some solutions. So change management becomes easy.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for explaining this. Sir, my next question comes as how does SAP WM contribute to improving inventory accuracy, warehouse layout optimization, and overall of operational efficiency? If you could tell us in a
Sure.
brief. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a good question. So, I mean, inventory is one of the most important data point any industry would like to have, and because it straight away reflects on your balance sheet and profit and loss. Very important to track. So, from tracking perspective, as I said, one, it is real time. A material movement happens. As long as transactions are happening, it's real time, and it's like 99.9% accurate. I mean, I have never seen, I mean, I still don't put this as 100, but I have never seen any kind of inconsistency within SAP from past 28 years when it comes to some transaction has happened, it is not updated. That's unheard of in SAP. So that's one of the positives of SAP. So that is one thing. One thing, it always gives an accurate real time update. And then SAP has a very good physical inventory process, wherein at each bin level, at any point of time, we can do a physical inventory. It will basically show what is in the book and what is actual count can be entered. And at any point of time, system can automatically tell you what is the difference between the physical and actual. And also, it immediately, if you say yes, it immediately makes the adjustments from the financial source. So
Right.
that process is very robust. It gives multiple types of physical inventory. Say, for example, it gives a cycle counting. where for a particular set of materials, if you want to do an inventory every 1 month, it can give you an alert saying that, okay, this set of materials are due for physical inventory. And then it can do something called as a continuous inventory where you can keep on doing the inventory. Then periodic inventory. So it gives multiple ways of monitoring your stock. First thing is real-time update, no issues as long as transactions are done
Right.
properly. And then it gives a very elaborate physical inventory process where at any point of, I mean, there will be differences. Physical to in a real-time environment, say somebody forgot to enter the this thing. Somebody, even big warehouses, I mean, some material can be lying in a corner, nobody could have noticed. So all those are possible, but periodic monitoring, SAP giving a this thing, and one thing about SAP is what we call it as a relentless pursuit of the guilty. So nobody can get away. So at any point of time, it can tell you what transaction was done at what time, who did it, which terminal. At any point of time, it maintains that history beautifully. So even if something is going wrong consistently, somebody can trace it back and say, okay, this is something which is happening consistently, and go back and correct it. So the visibility is there, the this thing, the functionality to continuously monitor inventory is there. So that is one thing where accuracy also can be maintained. And also, good thing is it's integrated with the FI. Moment you basically say that there is a difference, even the FI adjustment happens. So otherwise, what is going to happen is there's always going to be a difference between quantity and value. That eventually, when the end of the year, you will, that is never going to happen. Because if you say that there is a difference in the system, it adjusts both the quantity and the value. That's the beauty of the inventory physical inventory is.
Wow. So I'll go to the next question without any wasting any time. Can you share insights on the future trends and advancements in SAP WM and warehouse management technologies, please, if you could tell
Oh,
us?
oh, sure. See, warehouse management, as I said, is first as part of logistic execution. Now there's a next version of warehouse management, which is enterprise EWM, right?
Yeah.
That's a new thing which has come up. But
Okay.
EWM is not a completely different from WM. The base is still WM. On top of WM, SAP has built in a lot of additional, because right now a lot of mobile integration is required. People would like to go with a handheld and immediately scan barcode and immediately start getting updated. So nobody wants to do. So all those new functionalities and a lot of additional functionalities have come in EWM. So no, somebody, there are two sets of people in the market. One set of people who are already in WM. So I
Okay.
suggest they move on to EWM, because not that WM is going to go away. It's going to take some time for customers to move from WM to EM. WM is going to be there. So
Right.
eventually, maybe 5 years down the line, EWM might become the way forward. But right now, still, a lot of customers have not moved from WM to EM. So
Okay.
for most aspirants who try to get into EWM, for somebody who is just now getting into SAP, this thing, I would suggest get into EWM. I mean,
Okay.
so understand the basics of WM, because basics still remains the same, the foundation remains the same. And
Right.
somebody who wants to get into WM, my suggestion would be is that ideally they should have some background of supply chain and some background of handling the materials, how the material movements happen, what are the various movements in the industry happen. That kind of a background will be required. Otherwise, appreciating the problems of the users becomes bit difficult.
Wow. That's absolutely right, sir. Like, to know the SAP WM, they first must know the EWM part completely. Right. What role does the SAP WM, sorry for that, SAP WM play in managing returns and reverse logistics? And how does it enhance the customer service aspect of the business? Like, this is my favorite question, actually.
Sure. See, from the reverse logistics perspective, as you said, see, whenever a reversal happens, there will be a reason why the reversal happens, bad quality or whatever is the reason. Obviously, that has to be tracked separately and kept separately, so that it
Correct.
doesn't get mixed with this thing. So, and it doesn't go back to a different customer. So we can have a separate area in WM. Whenever a return happens, it always goes and sits there. We can make the system propose only those bits. saying that whenever a return happens, don't go into the regular risk. Obviously, you earmark some bins somewhere where all the returns are. That's one thing, so that whatever action needs to be taken can be taken on that. Second thing, it doesn't get mixed with the regular or the good products. So what happens to the returns? Either it gets reworked or it gets scrapped. Two things might happen: or reworked and sent back to the customer as refurbished, or just reworked and sent back. Now, all those things can be segregated and kept in one particular place. At any point of time, somebody would like to basically, whether system or physically, would like to see what are all the total returns which have come. They can straight away go to that particular zone. They need not go to overall warehouse. So that's one thing which helps where we can earmark. Otherwise, the biggest problem we have in reverse logistics is that materials SKUs getting mixed, the good and
Right.
the bad returns. So that can be totally avoided. So there'll be no manual intervention also. Moment a reversal happens, system can propose only that set of bits. So the users, whoever is to place, simply go and place.
Right. So that
That's
was
one of the.
like, wow. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for answering this question. I was waiting for you to answer this. So, sir, now we have come to the end, almost the end of the questions. So, my last question for you is, for someone aspiring to become an SAP WM consultant, what advice would you give them? And are there any specific skills or certification they are particularly valuable for their like course, or they can do for themselves to get into this entire department of SAP EWM? Yeah,
Sure. See, as I said, the first thing is have some basic exposure to supply chain. Ideally,
right,
within some, because warehouse management is classic, even though it's part of supply chain, it's more of execution.
right,
So, some basic experience and exposure of material movements, how a purchase order, what is a purchase order, what is a production order. 2 years of business experience minimum would be of great help. Otherwise, what happens is they will have to learn the business as well as SAP. So if you have that 1 or 2 years of business background, it becomes easy for you to understand the SAP part of W. Now, certification is not mandatory, but definitely good to have, especially if you are into EWM. See, when you are going to a job interview, like there are 4 or 5 people, that certification can get you. So that definitely, but understand certification, according to me, should be done after you completely understand and not straight away simply go to the certification. Because only
right,
certification is not going to help. You should be able to answer your questions in the interview also. So have this thing. And most important thing I keep on saying, have that minimum 2 to 3 years of business experience. And then spend a lot of time on the systems. I think a lot of training systems are available. And what happens is when you are exposed to that warehouse management system for 2 3 years, then what
right,
happens? You can imagine the scenarios. You understand, okay, what these are the problems I was facing or people are facing. How do I set it up in this? So that
right,
mapping becomes a lot more easier, because if you do not have that this thing, not that you cannot do, you are going to take some extra time and first understand the business and then do this. So my advice is do that. And SAP is I mean, from configuration perspective, I mean, since I've worked in multiple modules, so configuration in WM, number of items you can configure are very high in WM. A lot of options SAP gives in terms of both functional, technical, and all those things. So that is going to take some time. So spend time on the configuration, lot of options. So configuration is what? Configuration is nothing but building the business rules. So that business rules you will be in a position to do when you have some exposure to business. So spend a lot of time on this thing and on this whole configuration and practice a lot, have some business experience. Finally, certification is definitely going to help you.
right. So the person needs to have a real time experience before they even think about. Suppose if a person goes and does an internship, or like 3 months internship at the beginning, to understand that what is the entire warehouse management is all about, because it's not just a desk job. It's like you have to see, you have to manage, you have to understand that okay, this bin is empty, that parcel has come, and like lot of things on the process happens, but Audience out there, if you pursue this job, or if you pursue to upskill yourself, just make sure that you go yourself to the warehouses of different companies out there. Even SARS has his own, so you can reach out and see that how the procedures and how the entire functionality is done at the back end, and not envisioning it as sitting at home thinking that okay, this work will be very
Yeah, yeah.
easy and
With warehouse management, it's not a simple. I would suggest a simple formula. Somebody is going to warehouse management. Two
everything.
process you have. As I said, there are only whatever is there are multiple complications, but high level there are only three. So if you are talking about goods received, from that time goods is received in the security or in the warehouse, this thing till the time it reaches the actual bin. What are the various points it goes through? What are the checks and balances which are done? How does it reach the end bin?
Right.
When you do an issue, when the from the time the request comes for issue till the
Right.
time it is actually issued, what are all the various points you go through? What are the checks and balances which happen? Now take that process, then come back to SAP and see how can I do it in SAP.
Perfect, perfect. See, this is how, what is the beauty for a person who's so much experienced can any situation. I know that if you put into any situation in the warehouse regarding the functionalities and the procedures, you would know what to do. So this is the beauty of the experience you've had. So, sir, thank you so much for coming. I'm very happy today that you have come, and it's an honor to have you here. And it's really my like I'm very curious to know different modules of SAP and different subjects of SAP. But this is one of the most interesting modules I find, that warehouse management, like I told you earlier. So thank you
Thank
so much
you.
for your time, and I
Thank you
wish
very
you
much for having me there in this part of. Hope it helps some people to get their whole WM started.
definitely. And sir, I'll invite you for another podcast itself, so that we will have another episode of this SAP WM and SAP MM,
Yeah.
material management someday, and
Okay.
it would be lovely to have you again. So thank you
Sure.
so much for your time, and I'm wishing you and your family a happy new year.
Thank
So
you.
guys,
Thank you.
this is it for today. And sir, you have any snippets or anything to say for the audience, if you can, if you tell.
Yeah, see, yeah. SAP. SAP is the. One of the most commonly used. Especially big companies. This is something SAP has that ability to cater to those big companies. So, overall, yes, if you are getting into SAP, obviously there are new generation tools within SAP. So,
Right.
somebody who wants to aspire, who wants to be understand the business and also help the business to run better, optimize, SAP is the way to go, because it gives that experience of understanding the business and also some part of software part wherein you can how you can automate and how you can enhance the business process. That is your this thing. What you think you want to be, I think SAP is the place to be.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for coming again. Have a nice day, and happy new year to your family again.
Happy
Bye,
New
sir.
Year to you. Thank
Bye.
you.